Good evening and welcome to the channel's studios here in London with your international news around the world in 5. Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina has resigned and fled the country after anti-government protests in which hundreds of people have been killed. Here, footage of thousands of protesters storming Bangladesh Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina's official residence, Gana Baban, shouting slogans, pumping fists and showing victory signs. Elsewhere, jubilant crowds took to the streets in Bangladesh. Some 300 people have been killed over the past month as authorities have cracked down on anti-government protesters. Demonstrators had in recent weeks been pushing the Prime Minister to quit after over 2 decades in power. Here, demonstrators in Dhaka attacking the statue of Sheikh Hasina's father. Earlier, Bangladesh's army chief made a televised address to the nation saying an interim government would soon be formed.
They will feel that they have won today because a lot of people have lost their lives in this fight, which really began peacefully only over quotas and government jobs, but escalated because of mishandling by the government, by the absolute arrogance of the political leadership, by excesses of the security forces, into something which was so angry and demanded that Prime Minister stepped down.
Meanwhile, here in the UK, Sir Keir Starmer has announced a standing army of specialist police officers to tackle violent protests in UK towns and cities. The Prime Minister said criminal justice will be ramped up following an emergency response meeting with ministers and police chiefs. Police say they are working tirelessly to identify people who took part in the disorder, with South Yorkshire Police warning, "If you were there, we will find you." A hotel housing asylum seekers was targeted near Rotherham on Sunday, with violence unfolding in Middlesbrough, Liverpool, Belfast and elsewhere. The protests follow a stabbing attack in Southport last week, in which 3 children attending a dance class were killed.
There have already been hundreds of arrests. Some have appeared in court this morning. I've asked for early consideration of the earliest naming and identification of those involved in the process, who will feel the full force of the law.
European stock markets have sunk dramatically following nosedives in Asia as fears rise that the US economy is slowing down. In London, the FTSE 100 index fell by 2.8%, while in Paris, the CAC 40 dropped by 2.5% and Frankfurt's DAX slid by 3.2%. Earlier, Asian markets plummeted, with Japan's Nikkei 225 down 12.4% or 4,451 points, in the biggest fall by points in history. It comes as weak jobs data in the US on Friday sparked concerns about the world's largest economy. Iran will definitely take serious and deterrent action against Israel, the Foreign Ministry spokesperson has said, following the killing of Hamas leader Ismail Haniyeh in Tehran last week. Tehran and Iran-aligned groups such as Hamas and Hezbollah have accused Israel of killing Haniyeh in the Iranian capital. His death was one of a series of killings of senior Hamas figures as the war in Gaza between Hamas and Israel nears its 11th month. Israeli officials have not yet claimed responsibility. Hurricane Debby has made landfall as a Category 1 storm in the Big Bend region of Florida's Gulf Coast and begun a slow crawl across the state, causing potentially dangerous storm surges and catastrophic flooding. The hurricane came ashore in Florida, about 70 miles southeast of Tallahassee, packing maximum sustained winds of 80 miles per hour. The Hurricane Center forecast life-threatening conditions, including storm surges up to 10 feet in some areas. The storm could bring potentially historic rainfall of between 10 and 20 inches and catastrophic flooding to Georgia and South Carolina. And Cambodia's Prime Minister Hun Manet has inaugurated the construction of a controversial Chinese-funded canal that will connect the Mekong River basin to the coast. The project, that would potentially cut shipping through Vietnamese ports by 70%. The $1.7 billion project, funded by China Road and Bridge Corporation, a major Chinese state-owned construction company, is expected to be completed by 2028. Conservationists and Vietnamese authorities have voiced alarm at potential damage to the already fragile Mekong Delta, a massive rice-producing region supporting millions of people downstream in Vietnam. And that's your international news around the world in 5. Now back to the channel's studios in Lagos.